Hello everybody, it's Lucy Wolfe here, sleep consultant and author of The Baby Sleep Solution and all about the Baby Sleep Solution as well. I hope you're really well today. As usual, my message box is full of questions that some of you have, and there was just one specifically this morning that caught my interest because I think it's very important for us to talk about transitions through the nap stages. And obviously, transitions through nap stages, your baby goes from needing anything from 8 to 10 naps a day in the very beginning to one nap by around 18 months. And that takes a lot of work on your part to try to help your child navigate that territory. And I suppose, although each of your children will be totally different, there are some general age bandwidths that the transitions through the naps happen at. And I suppose the reason why I want to talk about this morning is that I had a message from somebody whose 10-month-old is joining daycare, and the daycare, it wants that 10-month-old to be on one nap a day. And mum is worried because mum's worked really hard on helping her baby sleep really well on 2 naps a day. And what I would say to you is that with your children's sleep, it's about meeting their biological need for sleep and, of course, honouring all their emotional needs and physical needs as well. And generally speaking, although there will be variation, most young children benefit from being on 2 naps until closer to 15 to 18 months. Now, of course, some children will transition sooner than that, but we would really want to see symptoms of your baby ready to transition to 1 nap rather than your baby being put onto 1 nap prematurely because it suits what I might describe as being an operations manual. And I feel really passionately about us meeting our children's needs as they arise. And that includes meeting their need for sleep, when they need to sleep, how they need to sleep, and the balance between their sleep, which is really important to maintaining their overnight sleep. So what are the symptoms of being ready to transition from 2 naps to 1 nap? And I typically find that this transition begins somewhere beyond 12 months, but maybe doesn't end until closer to somewhere between 15 and 18 months. And yes, absolutely, there are exceptions to that, but in the main, we would find that most children sleep really well if they are still on 2 naps a day. And again, my best yardstick is that if your child is tired before 10 a.m. and they're in that age range, then I generally would say they need 2 naps in the day. And of course, you'll know from listening to other content here is that I put a lot of emphasis on the balance between sleeps because the internal body clock has a big influencing factor on how well your children achieve and maintain their sleep. And what you might find if you make that adjustment prematurely is that to begin with, their sleep is okay, but within a 3 to 4 week period, their sleep actually starts to degrade because they slowly become more and more overtired and then they can't maintain it. And often, when that transition is made too soon, because there is a slow lead time into the degradation, parents don't necessarily feel that that's caused the night wakings that tend to come, or the early waking, or the long wake periods that tend to arise when the nap structure is, as I describe it, imbalanced. So I think it's very important that we have those symptoms. So the symptoms, the first thing is if they're still tired before 10 o'clock, they probably still need 2 naps in the day. And then it's a case of trying to figure out how long can the first nap be to still allow for a second nap. And that is a little bit of a tricky dance as the transition begins. And what it generally means is that we cut the length of the first nap to keep promoting and making room for the second nap. And that we maintain, so let's say for example, your first nap is currently an hour and a half, and now you're starting to experience a resistance to nap number 2. Yes, it's the beginning of the transition, but you still have a long time before you will be on just 1 nap a day. And what I might start doing is I might take that first nap of an hour and a half and cut it to 1 hour, and hope that creates enough room for the second nap. And generally it will do, but it won't last for very long. So you might find within a week or a month that the resistance to nap 2 happens again, and then we might need to limit nap number 1 to 45 minutes in order to create room for nap number 2. And then we might need to take it down to 30 minutes to keep making room for nap number 2. And again, there is this kind of straddle that you'll have as that transition is unfolding. And then you'll get to the stage that it's not actually worth putting your baby to sleep early in the morning time. even if they seem still tired, because no matter what length you give them in the first nap, the second nap is still untethered. And then we really know we are ready to make the transition to one nap. And when we are making the transition to one nap, the key thing to remember is that the time for one nap, in order to maintain everything, in order to maintain the nap gap dynamic for bedtime, in order to reduce the vulnerability to early waking, the one nap time ultimately needs to be around 1 o'clock. And I know lots of you will do half 11 and 12 o'clock, and if that works for you, that's amazing. But for a lot of you who are struggling with early rising, frequent nighttime waking, long wait periods overnight, the nap needs to be around 1 o'clock so that the gap before bedtime is on the lower end of the scale, and then we can start to put all the other strands that help reinforce our sleep practices as best as possible. So we've cut the first nap, and then we begin to make the transition. And I suppose the other symptom is that obviously your baby refuses the first nap. And then, of course, you're making that transition anyway. Now, of course, they might refuse that first nap for a day or two because they're teething. They might refuse that first nap for a day or two because they are feeling under the weather. So we really would want to see that refusal for a few days in a row. And their age would need to be appropriate. And also they probably need to be sleeping really well overnight as well to make that transition. And then, of course, I begin. So we don't have a morning nap, and maybe we just do a single nap around 11:30. So we've got a single nap around 11:30. It probably won't last for very long. Might last for the hour, might last for an hour and a half, but it still won't bridge the gap. And then we need to take that 11:30 nap and move it quite quickly so it moves towards 1 p.m. So I might move it by 15 minutes every day or two. And then as I do that, I have lunch before the nap, and I'm moving the nap later. And as I do it, I potentially will offer a cat nap between 4 and past, or I'll offer an earlier bedtime until I can just organise it so that the nap is placed correctly and then bedtime ties in. So once we're talking about this age range, 15 to 18 months, the nap gap is generally around 4 hours between the last nap and bedtime. And then as your child gets that little bit older, 18 months plus, that gap tends to get a little bit bigger, so closer to 4 to 5 hours. And again, those numbers are representative of children who are sleeping quite well. And again, if your child's on the lower end of the scale, then we'll always close the gap as we help them sleep a little bit better. So I hope that's helpful. And I suppose just going back to the question of the parent whose daycare want them to go on to one nap a day at this very young age group, I really feel that we need to sit with them, we need to speak with them, and we need to find out what provision can be made for your individual baby to meet your individual baby's individual needs at this moment in time, and to make your transition back to work easy and smooth for everybody. Because if we meet our children's sleep needs and all of the other needs as well, then of course that transition could go that little bit easier for everybody, and we don't have then unnecessary nighttime waking, unnecessary overtiredness, and unnecessary stress for the family unit who are engaging in the daycare setting. So I hope that's helpful, and there are other videos on the transition from 2 naps to 1 nap in my IGTV archive, and there's also content on my website, and everything can be accessed to my website and to purchase my books via the link in my bio. So I hope that's helpful, and I look forward to seeing you here again soon.